So, a new royal story has exploded across the UK media landscape. This time, the headline is about Prince Harry, Meghan, and their children. The BBC has published a report claiming that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are expected to bring Archie and Lilibet to the UK next month. And immediately, the royal media machine started spinning. The headlines began appearing, the conversations started, the speculation began. But there is one very interesting detail that many people noticed. Harry and Meghan themselves have not announced this. There has been no statement from the Sussexes, no official confirmation, no public message saying, yes, this is happening. In fact, the BBC article itself says that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's spokesperson did not respond to a request for comment. And that small sentence changes the entire conversation, because this is not a situation where Harry and Meghan stepped forward and said, here are our plans. Instead, we have a media report saying they understand something is expected to happen. And that raises a lot of questions. How did this information come out? Why is such a personal family matter being reported before the family itself speaks? And why does the media always seem to have so much interest in the private movements of the Sussex children? Because, let's be honest, this is not just another royal update. This involves two young children who have already been placed under a microscope since birth. Archie and Lilibet are not working royals. They are children. They did not choose public life. Yet, once again, their names are dominating headlines across the UK. The BBC report says this visit would mark the first time Harry has returned to the UK with his family in 4 years. It also connects the possible visit to the upcoming anniversary of the Invictus Games, an event Harry founded back in 2014. And that detail is important because whenever Harry's name comes up, the conversation often becomes focused on the royal family. But Harry has spent years building something outside that institution. The Invictus Games became one of his biggest projects, a platform focused on wounded, injured, and sick service personnel and veterans. So the possibility of a return to the UK is not just about a family visit. It is also connected to something Harry created and has dedicated years of work toward. But the bigger question is this. If Harry and Meghan do bring their children to Britain, what will that actually mean? Will it be a private family visit? Will there be a meeting with King Charles? Will the public even see them? The BBC article mentions that it is not known whether King Charles will meet his grandchildren during the visit. And that part has already created another wave of discussion. According to the report, King Charles has only met Archie and Lilibet once before, during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations in 2022. That fact alone is why many people are looking at this possible visit differently. Because regardless of adult disagreements, there is a generation of grandchildren involved. And this is where the conversation becomes complicated. Some people will say family relationships should be repaired. Others will point out that trust and safety concerns cannot simply disappear because a headline changes. And safety is the other major issue surrounding the story. The BBC report brings up Harry's ongoing concerns about security when visiting the UK. After stepping back as a working royal in 2020 and moving to the United States, Harry lost his automatic taxpayer-funded security arrangements. He later challenged the decision legally. The report notes that Harry lost his legal case seeking to have police protection reinstated, and that has been one of the biggest reasons Harry has previously discussed why he has been hesitant about bringing his family back. Because for Harry, this is not just about convenience. It is about whether he believes he can protect his children. That is the part that makes the story so complicated. The same media that reports on the possible visit also reports on the security concerns surrounding that visit. The same headlines that celebrate the idea of the Sussex children returning also remind everyone why Harry has been cautious. And this is where many people question the timing and the way the information is being presented. Why announce expectations before confirmation? Why create a wave of public discussion around children before their parents have spoken? These are questions that many observers are asking. Because the royal media environment has always had a strange relationship with privacy. The monarchy is public by nature. The institution depends on visibility. But Harry and Meghan have repeatedly argued that their children's privacy and safety should be protected, and that creates a clash. The public wants information, the media wants stories, the royal institution has a tradition of public appearances, but parents still want control over when and how their children are introduced to the world. That tension has followed Harry and Meghan since they became parents, and now it is happening again. The BBC report also mentions Harry's previous comments about wanting reconciliation with his family. Imagine trying to decide whether to take your children on a family trip while knowing every airport movement, every photograph, every meeting, and every facial expression could become international news. That is not a normal family situation. Most people can plan a holiday without commentators analyzing their luggage choices. The royal world, however, has somehow turned ordinary human moments into a full production. A child's visit becomes a constitutional conversation. A family reunion becomes a media strategy debate. A private decision becomes a headline. And that is exactly why this report is creating so much discussion. Because the biggest question is not only whether Harry and Meghan will come to the UK, the bigger question is, who gets to tell the story? Will it come from Harry and Meghan? Will it come from the palace? Will it come from media sources? Or will the public once again be left trying to separate confirmed facts from endless royal speculation? For now, the only confirmed fact is that the BBC has reported what it says it understands. The Sussexes have not publicly confirmed it, and until they do, everything else remains a conversation. But one thing is certain. Whenever Prince Harry and Meghan appear in the headlines, the world watches. The cameras turn on, the opinions explode, and the royal drama machine starts moving again. And now we get to the part that always seems to happen when Harry and Meghan are involved. The speculation becomes louder than the actual news. A simple question like, are they visiting? Somehow transforms into a worldwide debate about the monarchy, the media, family relationships, security, and public opinion. Because this is the strange world surrounding the Sussexes. Every move becomes a headline, every silence becomes a mystery, every private choice becomes something for people to analyze. And this latest BBC report is a perfect example. The article itself contains a very important detail. The Sussexes' representative did not confirm the story. That means the public is looking at a report about an expected event, not an official announcement. And that difference matters. Because when it comes to Prince Harry and Meghan, the question of who controls the story has always been a major issue. For years, the Sussexes have argued that they wanted more control over their own lives and their own narrative. They stepped away from being working royals. They moved their family to California. They built projects outside the royal institution. And one of the biggest reasons they gave was the desire to protect their family. Yet, here we are, once again, seeing discussions about their children before they have even spoken publicly. That is the part that many people find fascinating, because imagine a regular family planning a visit to see relatives. Nobody writes an article saying, "Family expected to arrive next month." Nobody has analysts discussing the possible emotional meaning of a child visiting grandparents. Nobody debates security arrangements on television. But royal life has always operated differently. The private becomes public. The ordinary becomes symbolic. And every small event is treated like it carries the weight of history. A visit from children becomes a question about the future of the monarchy. A family reunion becomes a test of relationships. A trip becomes a headline. And the media knows exactly how much interest these stories generate, because Harry and Meghan remain two of the most talked about figures in the world. Love them or criticize them, people pay attention, and the media ecosystem follows attention. That is the reality. But there is another layer to this story. The possible return of Archie and Lilibet would also raise questions about their place in the royal family, because while they are grandchildren of the king, they are growing up far away from the institution. Their lives are very different from the traditional royal path. They are being raised in California, away from the daily pressure of royal duties and public appearances, and that creates a very different childhood experience. They are not being raised as working royals. They are being raised as children, and that distinction is something many people overlook. There is a tendency in royal discussions to forget that behind the titles and headlines are actual people, real parents, real children, real emotions. The conversation often becomes about the institution rather than the individuals involved. And that is where the situation becomes complicated, because there are two competing ideas. One side says family connections matter, the other side says safety and privacy matter, and both of those things are important. Prince Harry has repeatedly spoken about wanting his children to know where he comes from. The UK is his birthplace, his childhood home, a place connected to his mother, Princess Diana, and his own history. So it is understandable why he might want his children to experience parts of that world. But at the same time, he has also been vocal about his concerns. The security question has not disappeared, and that is why this potential visit is not as simple as just getting on a plane. There are practical issues, there are personal issues, there are emotional issues. And then there is the media attention. A normal family visit could become a global spectacle. Photographers could wait, commentators could analyze, every moment could be turned into a story. Even a child waving could become a debate. Humanity really does have a talent for turning a simple hello into a 3-hour discussion panel. But beyond the jokes, there is a serious point. Children deserve some protection from adult conflicts. They should not become symbols in a larger argument. They should not be treated as tools for one side or another. Their relationship with family members should be about them, not headlines. And this is why many people are watching this story carefully. Not because of the drama, not just because of the royal connection, but because it represents a bigger question. Can public figures have private family moments anymore? The answer seems increasingly difficult. The Sussexes have spent years trying to create a different kind of life, a life where they can choose their projects, choose their home, choose what parts of themselves they share. But the interest from the public and media has never disappeared. The spotlight followed them. And that is something every famous person eventually learns. Leaving the palace does not mean leaving the headlines. In fact, sometimes the headlines become even louder. The BBC report also brings up the possibility of Harry and King Charles meeting. And that part is where emotions become even stronger, because people have watched the father and son relationship go through public difficulties. There have been moments of distance, there have been moments of contact, there have been signs that communication has not completely disappeared. But rebuilding a relationship after years of tension is not something that happens overnight. It requires trust, it requires effort, it requires both sides. And perhaps that is why this possible visit has created so much interest. People are not only asking, will they come? They're asking, could this be a turning point? Could this be an opportunity for a family moment away from all the noise? Or will the media attention become another obstacle? Because the irony is that the very coverage that celebrates a possible reunion can also create pressure around it. Every action gets analyzed. Every meeting gets judged. Every photograph gets interpreted. The royal family has lived with that reality for generations. But Harry and Meghan have repeatedly shown they want something different. They have tried to separate family from institution, personal life from public duty, parenthood from royal expectations. And that is why this story has so many layers. The headline is simple. Harry and Meghan may bring their children to the UK. But underneath that headline is a much bigger conversation. A conversation about privacy, about security, about family, about media power, about who controls information, and about whether modern public figures can ever truly step away from the spotlight. For now, everyone is waiting. Waiting for confirmation, waiting for clarity, waiting to see whether this becomes a real visit or simply another chapter in the endless Sussex media cycle. Because one thing has become clear over the years, the Sussexes do not even have to make an announcement for the world to start talking. The conversation starts before they arrive, before they speak, sometimes before they even decide. And that says a lot about the strange world of royal reporting, a world where silence can become a headline, a possibility can become breaking news, and a family decision can become an international event. The story is still developing, but as always, the attention is already here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Smiley here, and take care.